It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Chicka, chicka, boom, boom. It's a Leo Be the Lion show. Boom, boom. Gonna tell you what you need to know. Boom, boom. Now here comes your boy Leo. Hey everyone out there, it's your boy Leo B the Lion coming to you live from Subculture Radio, subcultureradio.com studios here at Respectable Street on Clematis in beautiful West Palm Beach. I am Leo B the Lion, and you can follow me on Twitter and IG at Leo B the Lion Show. Or if you go on YouTube, take a moment, subscribe, and like some of my videos at Leo B the Lion. You can find me with this beautiful haircut. You know it's my profile with this haircut right here that I have. And I got some nice shades on. You'll see my profile picture and see some of my videos with the same kind of graphics. So it's a thrill to welcome you to the Leo B the Lion show the day after Christmas. We had a lot of things go on in the sports realm over the weekend. And the first thing that we had that I'm going to talk about today is the NBA Christmas Day schedule. Now, we all know the NBA Christmas Day is the unofficial start of the NBA season. And we'll get into some games that have an impact in the landscape of the NBA. And then after we get into the NBA Christmas Day schedule and some important games therein, I'm going to talk about the NFL Week 16 news and notes and recap a few of the games, especially the Dolphins game, the Bucks game, and the Jags game, because this is a Florida-oriented show. And this is Leo B the Lion. I come to you with the sports and business flavor of the day and of the week on Mondays from 5 to 6 here at subcultureradio.com and Subculture Radio Studios, Radio Respects at Respectable Street in Clematis. Then, after getting to the NFL news and notes on Week 16, I'm going to be getting into, of course, a little bit more about the Miami Dolphins. And then I'm going to be doing a look ahead, since next week my show will be on the 2nd in 2023. Yes, this is the last show, Leo B the Lion show of 2022. It's flown by, but it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Shout out to Rodney Mayo for giving me this opportunity, and I'm going to keep running with it for 2023. And also, speaking of 2023, vote for Rodney Mayo for West Palm Beach mayor. He believes in the town, believes in the city, and has some good ideas if you check out his platform. So then after taking a look at the college football playoff semifinals, we're going to get into my hashtag 5-pack of picks recap from last week. I made 5 picks, 2 of the college games, bowl games, and 3 college pro games. Then I'm going to be getting to a fresh, hot, piping set of 5-pack of picks for this week, see if we can get deeper into the money. And if we have time, I'll preview Monday Night Football. It's the Chargers versus the Colts tonight. And I'll give you some hashtag words of encouragement or hashtag whoa to get into. So now, without further ado, let's get into the NBA Christmas Day schedule. This was a great set of games. We had some great matchups between each game was pretty competitive. There was some blowouts. Well, they looked like blowouts towards the end, but they were pretty competitive throughout. And the first game that I'm going to talk about right now is the Boston Celtics versus the Milwaukee Bucks. This game was one of the later games at 5, but I think this was one of the marquee games of the day besides Luka and the Mavericks versus the Lakers. Boston came out of this game in the TD Garden in Boston, 139-118 against the Milwaukee Bucks. I personally thought the Bucks being 5.5-point underdogs, I thought the Bucks were going to be able to cover that and at least keep it into a close game, but Boston was able to pull away. Jason Tatum is quietly having, as the star of the Boston Celtics, quietly having an MVP season. Well, since this is the unofficial start of the season in NBA Christmas Day, now people should take notice of his MVP season. He just had 41 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. He was able to help extend the lead in the fourth quarter and really take over. Oh, yeah, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum right now with all things being equal, are probably the best 1-2 punch in the NBA. If you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on a good night, the Celtics are nearly impossible to beat. And then one other quick nugget, the Celtics have the best record in the NBA on Christmas Day, and 4 out of the last 6 years, the team with the best record on NBA Christmas Day has gone on to win the NBA Finals. And so if that's any indication, if the Boston Celtics keep this up, they're on track for another collision course in the NBA Finals and possibly to win it. So let's just see what Boston Celtics can do in this in the NBA season going forward, and we'll check back in 2023. Then, after talking about the Celtics taking down the Milwaukee Bucks, we're going to switch it over and move to Dallas, where Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks were able to take care of business and beat the Lakers in Dallas 124-115. And this was the Dirk statue game, and what I mean is that before the game started, Mark Cuban, the Mavericks organization, classy organization, well, by some regards, some it has had a checkered organization in the past with the way they treat their workplace, their non-players and the like, but we won't get into that. Dirk was able to have his statue unveiled in front of the arena, and the statue featured Dirk doing his trademark fadeaway, one-legged fadeaway shot that was nearly unguardable with him being 7 foot. He was and is probably the best international player who's ever played so far, and he was able to take down in 2011 the mighty Heat when they had the big three with D. Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James. He was able to almost single-handedly, he had a good squad around him, but Dirk was definitely the MVP for that finals, and he was able to shock the world and let the Mavs beat the big three in 2011 for his championship ring. So it was the Dirk statue game, and Luka just had a ho-hum, almost a triple-double, 32 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and Christian Wood, I believe, put in 30 points, and Tim Hardaway Jr. put in 26. So Luka had some help, but Luka's legend is growing. There was a point where the Lakers were trying to come back. Luka did a in-and-out dribble with his right hand, crossed to his left, did a step back, three-pointer, nothing but net, and it was basically daggered the game in the fourth quarter and took care of business. So Dallas was able to win 124-115 in the Dirk statue game. Shout out to Dirk. He did it. One of my best friends, Telly, he was basically a Dirk fan growing up and would always pick the Mavericks with Michael Finley and all them. So shout out to Telly, yo. And now let's move to one of the next games that happened on Christmas Day. And I thought this was an important game that the Warriors were able to, for the Warriors season while Steph Curry's out, this was an important game for the Warriors because without the Steph Curry, the Warriors are sub-500 squad, and you would think their spark, their main guy, is out. Especially, it doesn't allow for Jordan Poole to have a bad game, doesn't allow for Klay Thompson to have a bad game. Well, despite Curry being out, the Warriors were able to beat the Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies may be the youngest, hottest team in the West, save for the Pelicans right now. And so the Warriors were able to beat the Grizzlies 123-109 in the Bay, and Jordan Poole had a great game. Jordan Poole had 32 points and 6 assists, 32 points, and there was 6 players in double figures for the Warriors. If the Warriors can string some of these wins together without Steph Curry and kind of keep themselves afloat in the West until they get Steph Curry back and fully healthy, I really think the Warriors will be able to take care of business and be a contender again. Because if they can stay healthy and play their offense with Steve Kerr running their offense, and they have one of the deepest benches in the league, with James Wiseman, Kevon Looney. Looney doesn't miss a game if you play him. He's good he can get a double-double on any given night. James Wiseman can put in 15 to 22 points a night. And so if you want the Warriors in the playoffs, by all means, you can have them, but I wouldn't want to face the Warriors in the playoffs if they can get a healthy Curry and go down the stretch and be a strong team down the stretch. Now, for the Grizzlies, expect the Grizzlies to just shake this off. I really think that the Grizzlies, and believe that the Grizzlies are one of those teams that are destined to be a good team for years to come. They have Ja Morant. They have a bunch of young players that really are buying into the system, and they play well together. So look out for the Grizzlies for years to come. But right now, you gotta be able to beat the real dynasty. The Grizzlies were talking about dynasty, and Klay Thompson was like, Klay Thompson said, you can't really talk about being a dynasty if you haven't won anything yet. So that was like the ultimate. Klay Thompson was holding up the rings basically on them. So now from the Warriors, from the Bay, let's go to Harden in the Garden. And that is where the Sixers had to go to New York to play the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, and the Sixers were able to get a win. The Sixers were down in the first quarter, 28-16, and they were able to fight back, and tie the game in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth, and they won the game 119-112. And why I say Harden in the Garden is because James Harden, you may like him, you may hate him, you may have a certain way you feel about him. He may make you feel some type of way, whatever. But when he gets to the Garden, when he's in a primetime game like that, he's going to show out. So when I heard, Harden's going to the Garden, he's going to show out, I just knew that he was going to give it a good game. And his stats were 29 points, 4 rebounds. Yeah, you say 4, but this man, who notoriously is known as a ball control offense, where basically he would have the ball and control it and not pass it that much, he passed for 13 assists. So 29, 4, and 13, which is awesome for James Harden, double-double with assists. And then Embiid put in 35 points and 8 rebounds to help lead them to help lead the 76ers against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. The Knicks are a pretty good team this year, so that's saying something. And the Sixers are poised to not let this window shut with Joel Embiid and try to compete for Eastern Conference Finals, try to get past Boston, and hopefully try to get to the NBA Finals. We shall see. So now, after talking about NBA on Christmas Day, I need to get into the NFL Week 16 matchups, news, and notes. And I would be remiss as a Dolphins fan if I didn't talk about the putrid showing that we saw from the Dolphins yesterday against the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers came out of the frozen tundra, came down to sunny Miami. Yeah, it was cold yesterday. Came down to sunny Miami and basically took care of business against the Dolphins, and causing the Dolphins to lose their 4th straight, dropping them to 8-7 from 8-3. Come on, Dolphins. And Green Bay Packers was able to take care of business and win 26-20. This is just the annoying part about being a Dolphins fan, and the inevitable. It's like the impending doom that you see every year coming, but you don't believe it because you think this year is different. As a Dolphins fan, you sit there, you're like, oh, we're 8-3. Yeah, everybody says that we didn't play somebody. Everybody said that. Yeah, and then guess what happens? We lose 4 straight. Now we're 8-7, and so now I gotta sit there and have nightmares and have indigestion because the Dolphins can't win a damn game. It's just so funny that the Dolphins, every year they do it to the Dolphins fans. Easy games that are in your grasp. We were up 20-10 on the Green Bay Packers, and for the Packers to come back and take care of business and beat us 26-20 because we shot ourselves in the foot so many times, we damn near don't have a foot left. So now let me get into the game a little deeper after taking the emotions out of it. I want to talk about Tua for a second. Tua Tagovailoa let me down yesterday. He let the Dolphins down yesterday, and he'll be the first to admit it. He's not like Zach Wilson where he won't take take the blame and take the criticism. Tua is the first to admit that those interceptions, those 3 interceptions, cost us the game. And what I want to talk about is that, okay, the first interception, if Tua's looking straight, he's looking to his left, he sees Tyreek Hill in a little hole in the zone, and like he does plenty of times, he tries to throw it over the linebacker and throw it right in between the safety, and it sails on him. Okay, so then, you give him that one. The Dolphins are still in the game. Dolphins are winning 2013. We're good. We're straight. Keep all hopes alive. Be happy about the Dolphins. But no. Then the Packers come back. The Dolphins come around again in the third quarter. We're trying to maybe score again, try to score in the lead. We miss a field goal, so Jason Sanders, that stinks. Then Dolphins get the ball again. Plenty of time. We're still, I think it's 2020 at this point. And Tua sees they're basically running like a cover 2 shell where everybody's running like middle zones. They're saying, okay, 10 yards, 7 to 10 yards, we're going to play a zone. All the linebackers and the 2 corners are going to play a zone bubble right there, basically, 7 to 10 yards. And then we're going to have the 2 safeties in the back, and then we're going to have the guys rushing. So in the situation, you can just imagine 4 defenders lined up. Like you have the 2 linebackers and the 2 corners, you have them lined up in their zones. Well, the receiver runs a route in between both of the zones. So basically you have these 2 zones right here, and then you have the receiver in the middle. And then when that happens, Tua throws the ball to the receiver's right and to Tua's left a little too much. The Green Bay Packer corner or Green Bay Packer linebacker who intercepted it basically would have been cut if he dropped this ball, because it was basically a pass to the Green Bay player. And that's the frustrating part about Tua's game. Sometimes he locks in on that one read. He's on that first read. He says, okay, it's an RPO. I'm gonna fake the run, and then if the curl route's there or it looks a tiny bit open, I'm gonna throw it to him no matter what. If the slant's there, I'm gonna throw it to that one instead of seeing, okay, they're playing the curl route, they're playing the slant route. So then I'm going to throw it underneath to the flat. I'm going to throw a swing pass. I'm going to get out of the pocket and see if maybe we can make something happen or sit into a better zone or what my second and third read are going to be. But he didn't do any of that. Tua did not do any iota of that. And then with 26-20, with no timeouts, a minute and something left, the Dolphins get the ball back for one more chance to take the ball down the field and win the game 27-26 on a touchdown. What does Tua do? They're playing a cover 2 now, and basically where that is that they have 3 zones in the middle, like a Tampa 2, where the middle linebacker plays a deep middle zone, the safeties play an outside deep zones, and then the corners play a flat zone, which is like a flat cloud zone where they get the flats. Their first responsibility is the direct flats, and then they slowly fade back to play any of the deeper thirds and then the deep corner routes if there's nothing underneath. But their first responsibility is the flats, okay? So on Tua's third interception, he's left-handed, so keep in mind he's looking to his right side of his field. He sees a corner playing the cover 2 flat. Then he sees the linebacker right there. And then he sees the safety, and he sees a hole in the cover 2. The traditional hole in the cover 2 is that like deep thirds in towards the sidelines. The flag routes will cover that. The deep corner routes will take care of that, and they'll be open. So Tua almost throws it to basically like a guy running a deep curl, and in between the corner who's in the flat and the deep safety. And what happens? Why? I don't know. Mike McDaniel does this, and I could be wrong. And if you think I'm wrong, follow me and subscribe to Leo B. the Lion on YouTube, or follow me on Twitter and IG at Leo B. the Lion Show. And why does Mike McDaniel ever or never put a route underneath to occupy the corner and make the corner make a decision? It's like he's not running the route trees to be complementary of each other. If a guy's running a deep curl, that could be the cornerback's responsibility. Why not have a running back underneath run a swing route to that same side to make the corner have to decide, okay, should I throw it to the swing route? Or should I cover the swing route in the direct flats right in front of me? Or should I cover that deep curl right behind me, 10 yards behind me? And so that didn't happen. There was no swing route. So the corner saw his primary responsibility of having that cover 2 flat. If that primary responsibility was covered, he was like, there's nobody in the flat. So I'm going to back up and play the deep corner route. And guess what happened? Tua threw the ball, not noticing that there was nobody in the flat for the corner to occupy, and the corner just basically clouded up, scooted back, and Tua threw the ball late. And what happened? The Packers intercepted the ball for the third and back-breaking interception of the game, and the Dolphins lost their 4th straight, dropping the Dolphins to 8-7, which is disappointing as a Fins fan. Now, I want to say I still believe in Tua. I really think McDaniel and Tua this offseason, no matter what happens, they need to go back to the drawing board and basically think about how much they want to stick to this RPO system. Maybe let Tua be able to make more reads of traditional when they're traditional drop back passing, but also commit to the run. And when I commit to the run, when Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson combined for 17 carries, it's not enough. Raheem Mostert had 8 carries for 45 yards. Jeff Wilson Jr. had 9 carries for 37 yards and a touchdown. It's not enough to run that few times when you are when your whole offense is based on a running game that's productive. Because if you don't have a productive running game, the play action pass doesn't work, the RPO doesn't work, and knowing that if the guy is the first read, then you know if they say, okay, the key is Tua's going to look to the right of the field because he's lefty, he likes throwing to the right, the defense can know that. And so if you got to make adjustments, you got to go back and say, okay, we can't have these little RPO plays and stuff like that. We got to have it where, there's little more, it's a little bit more exotic than that. It's not so simple, not so vanilla, if you will. So the Dolphins disappointed me on offense. I still kind of believe in Tua, but they got to reorganize this offense after this year. And then the defense played well. When you hold Aaron Rodgers to 238 for 1 touchdown and 1 interception, that's pretty damn good. And then you hold Dillon and A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones for 17 carries for 61 yards. That's pretty damn good. But what happened was the Dolphins' defense were stuck with a short field every time because the Packers kept getting the ball on our side of the field. And anytime you keep giving the ball in good field position, they're getting field goals. And that's why they beat us 26-20, because it was 20-20 at one point. It was 20-20 at one point, and they scored a field goal and scored another field goal. And if Tua would not have thrown those interceptions, we would have saw what happened. So now you can't help it. The Dolphins lose 26-20. What games do they have left, Leo B. the Lion? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Dolphins' next 2 games, they have to travel on the road to play New England Patriots. The Patriots are 7-8. They've been reeling as well. Mac Jones is a dirty player, and we'll talk about that. And then to finish out the season, back home against the New York Jets, or Spirit Airlines, as I like to call them. And so let's get that win against the New York Jets. Let's finish the season strong. Now let's talk about more of the NFL news and notes for Week 16. The first game that I want to get into is traveling up to Jacksonville, where we beat the Jets where we beat the Jets. The Jags beat the Jets. I just love beating the Jets. Anytime the Jets lose, I'm so happy. So the Jags beat the Jets 19-3 on Thursday Night Football on December 22nd. And now the Jacksonville Jaguars are 7-8, tied in the AFC South with the Titans. I want to just say, come on, Titans. Like, y'all really had a chance to, even with Tannehill out for the season, have a chance to control your own playoff destiny in that division. And you've let the Jaguars come back in it. And I really can't talk because there's a lot of parallels between the Titans and the Dolphins, except that the Dolphins starting quarterback Tua is in the game, and we've fallen off like a Big Mac topping. So the Jags beat the Jets 19-3. And now the 7-8 Jets have to basically win both of their games, the next 2 games again, so that they can have a playoff chance. And the Dolphins are on a collision course with the Jets Week 18, basically to decide who is going to go to the playoffs in the final wild card spot. If the Jets lose this week and the Dolphins win, the Dolphins clinch a playoff spot no matter what happens in Week 18. And so we'll see. Now, in the next game that I want to talk about, it is the Bucks versus the Cardinals. When you think of the Bucks versus Cardinals, the Bucks were 7-point favorites in this game, and I'll get into it later, but I bought that down to 4 points. And the Bucks were able to take care of business, but barely 19-16 against the Cardinals in the Big Toaster in Glendale, Arizona. 19-16 in overtime, like I've said. This moves the Bucks to 7-8 on the year in the division race. The fact that they're at the top of their division in the NFC South at a 7-8 record is pretty putrid. The Bucks, like I've mentioned multiple weeks in the past, they have to be able to play a complete game. They kept themselves in the game, and then finally, out of nowhere, their offense mounted a drive to be able to take care of business in overtime. But the Bucks have had a disappointing year. They can sneak into the playoffs, and they may be an easy out for some teams. I don't think they'll be dangerous to play, but anytime you go into the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen in the NFL. We've seen 6 seeds win the Super Bowl. We've seen teams like the Raiders, win the Super Bowl, and it's possible that any team from 1 to 7 can get hot at the right time and win the Super Bowl. They just have to get into the playoffs. Even a team like the Dolphins, if the Jets get into the playoffs, and those who know me, those who know Leo Be the Lion, know I don't want the Jets to win at all, ever. I wish they could go 0-17 every year. If the Jets make the playoffs, they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And yes, I'm saying that with a straight face. So so let's just keep it at that. If you get to the playoffs, you have a chance to win the Super Bowl, by God. Now, the Cardinals have had such a disappointing year. The Cardinals were my pick for the 2 seed this year. I thought with Kyler Murray, I thought with that offense and having all the weapons, having all the receivers that they had, and having their decent defense with J.J. Watt, Calais Campbell, not Calais Campbell, but J.J. Watt, and they had some other stars on defense. I really did think that the Cardinals were going to have a great year, but they fall to 4-11 on the year, and they have a guy who reminds me of in Toy Story. I don't know. I forget what Toy Story's like. Andy Bernard. No, that's The Office. Their quarterback played yesterday. The Cardinals. The quarterback's name was Andy Lee, and it just sounds like I never would think that we would get to a point where the Cardinals are starting a player named Andy Lee. It just sounds like it's just a ho-hum type name. And then they had Trace McSorley. Of course, we know him. He's a running quarterback from Penn State, and they didn't do well. But they were able to stick with the Bucks. And what I'm saying is, how good are the Bucks if they're barely beating Andy Lee and Trace McSorley 19-16 in overtime? Just leave it at that. Now, for the next game that we're going to talk about on the NFL Week 16 news and notes, it is the Bengals versus the Pats on Saturday night, Christmas Eve. The Bengals were able to take care of business and beat the Pats 22-18. The Bengals look like one of the hottest teams in the NFL, especially in the AFC right now. They can challenge the Chiefs for the title in the AFC East because they've beaten the Chiefs. The win against the Pats moved them to 11-4. The Chiefs, while being, I believe the Chiefs are also 11-4, so they're both tied. And the Bills are, I believe it's a 3-way tie, but I'll have to double check and get back to you next week. The Pats are 7-8. Drop the Pats to 7-8. So in the AFC East, we have the Bills at top, up at top, 11-3. Then we have, 11-4. Then we have the Dolphins at 8-7, and then we have the Jets and Pats at 7-8 respectively. And Mac Jones is basically the Grayson Allen of the NFL. I want to put that out there. If you don't agree with me, go to Twitter and IG at Leo Be the Lion Show, or subscribe to my channel, Leo Be the Lion, when I come out with these videos every week. Mac Jones is the dirty player of the NFL. Now he has graduated to be one of the dirtiest players in the NFL. If you saw in the Bengals game, the Bengals were returning an interception or something back for a touchdown. Mac Jones wasn't even in the play, and about 10 yards behind the play, Mac Jones laid down in front of player at the player's knees and could have seriously injured the player's knees and hurt the Bengals player when he didn't even have to. It was a dirty play. And so Mac Jones, if you know who Grayson Allen is, you know he's a dirty play since he played at Duke. Not because he played at Duke, but ever since he started playing at Duke, he's been known as one dirty player. And now he's on the Grizzlies, or I believe he's on the Bucks, excuse me. And he's a dirty player that has been known to trip players or push you while you're going up for a dunk and stuff like that. Mac Jones now is on par with that. So, I don't like the Pats anyway, but Mac Jones is building a resume of doing dirty plays in the NFL. Now, the Pats have to host the Dolphins this week coming up, and the Dolphins are 1-point favorites, and it's always tough to play the Patriots in Foxborough and Gillette Stadium, but I believe that the Dolphins will be ready to play, and the Pats are just trying to get to Cancun at this point. Like, basically, they're trying to get the season over with and basically get on vacation as much as possible. Mac Jones is not the answer. I might be a little nervous if they go with Bailey Zappi, but I think they trust Mac Jones, and Bill Belichick will probably start Mac Jones. Now, after talking about the Bengals beating the Patriots 22-18, let's move to the next game. And I had to mention this because I alluded to it earlier with the Texans and Titans, with the Titans being a disappointing team this year. The Texans were able to go to Tennessee and beat the Titans as 3-point road favorites or road underdogs, and beat the Titans 19-14. And the first thing I have to say about that is, come on, Titans. Like, what are y'all doing? Don't be a disappointing team like this. Malik Willis is a good quarterback. Mike Vrabel, you need to get your team right and make sure you guys can still make the playoffs. The Jags are now tied with you at 7-8 for the division lead. You're fighting for your playoff lives with the Jags right now. At the beginning of the season, when the Titans were 5-2, you would have said, "Oh, we got to fight for our lives for the Jags." They would have laughed me off the stage right at that point. But now they're really fighting for their playoff lives with the Jags. And I have to say, the Titans have had a disappointing season, similar to the Finns, where we had playoff expectations, possibly to take that next step this year. But we've had questionable losses and questionable streaks of losses. And so it's been a disappointing season for the Titans as well as the Dolphins. Then, after talking about the Titans and their disappointing loss with the Texans actually have to play the Jags next week. And the Texans beat the Jags earlier in the season 13-6, but this was when the Jags were kind of not so hot. And so I expect the Jags to really put on a good showing against the Texans and take care of business. But what you have for the Titans is the Titans have to win the next two games because they won't get in as the wild card if they don't own any of the tiebreakers. So the Titans have to basically get in. The AFC South is basically looking at teams to get in as the lone division winner, and the wild card should come from the AFC West and the AFC East. Now let's get into one of the most important games that we had last week that really can shape the landscape of the NFL and NFC alike, and that was the Dallas Cowboys in Big D in Dallas taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. A couple of caveats to this game, though. Jalen Hurts wasn't playing, so Gardner Minshew. Chris Berman used to say Gardner Minshew because his name kind of sounds like a sneeze, but anyway, I just had to mention that. The Cowboys were able to take care of business at home and beat the Eagles 40-34. And it was thanks to a good showing by the Dallas offense, but an even better showing by the Dallas defense. When the game was late, 37-34, the Dallas defense was able to force a fumble for the Philadelphia Eagles and recover and go up 40-34 to win the game. When you have a team with a defense that shows up late, that travels, yeah, they were at home, but with a team that gets takeaways, If you have a defense that gets takeaways, you can compete with any team and you're in any game. Just like if you have an offense that creates explosive plays, you're in any game because you can just change the game, sudden change, and just take care of business and change the momentum in your favor right away. And that's what explosive plays do. And so if you have a defense that can take away that football as quickly as an explosive play can score a touchdown, you have a team that can be reckoned with and a Super Bowl contending team. Now, people just say, oh, you're just recency bias. Yeah, the Cowboys beat the Eagles. But listen, if the Cowboys can keep up their defense and keep it up to a point that they're getting these takeaways in key moments, getting the takeaways, consecutive streak games of multiple takeaways, that's the key to winning the game. The Cowboys are going to want to run the ball with Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, and sometimes Dak, but he doesn't really want to run it that much. But the Cowboys really want to run the game, control the clock, play their defense, and then take their shots with CeeDee Lamb and Gallup on the outside. So when you look at the Cowboys and you look at their playoff future, their playoff hopes, yeah, of course they're Super Bowl or bust, but they're going to run into teams that protect the football. And turnovers, takeaways are at a premium in the postseason. And so if the Dallas defense, and you see where I'm going with this, I believe that with the Dallas defense, if they can force those teams that traditionally don't turn the ball over or protect those teams that traditionally can protect the football and get them to have a 2-turnover day, look out, because the Dallas Cowboys will be Super Bowl contenders. But if they go to play a team like the Packers, who are surging right now, and they can't force Aaron Rodgers to throw a couple interceptions or can't force A.J. Dillon or Aaron Jones to fumble the ball, the Packers might shock the world and beat the Cowboys. So props to Dallas for beating the Eagles. They didn't have Jalen Hurts, and I can't wait to see if that's an NFC East or an NFC championship matchup, the Cowboys versus the Eagles. I personally thought at the beginning of the season that the Green Bay Packers were going to get to the Super Bowl. I was completely wrong, I'll admit that. And the Packers were going to be my 1 seed and take care of business. But they lost so many games at the beginning of the year. And so it's like, come on, Green Bay. But Dallas Cowboys took care of business, moved them to 11-4, and now the Eagles are 12-2. And the NFL is shaping up to have a good last couple weeks of the season. There are, out of the 14 playoff spots, there are about 11 playoff spots left for grabs. And a lot of the playoff spots, especially probably the last 2 wild card spots in each league, each conference, are going to come down to week 18, to the last week of the season. And what more could you want if you're the NFL, to have your season come down to the last 2 weeks to decide who's going to get to the playoffs, when you have a playoff system that no matter what, like I said, no matter who gets in, you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I really think it's great. The Raiders still have an outside chance of making the playoffs. The Chargers, of course, do. The one thing that scares me is the Dolphins don't have the tiebreaker against the Chargers. If the Chargers win tonight, they clinch a playoff spot. The Chargers are playing the Colts. I'll get into the Monday Night Football matchup right now. The Chargers play the Colts. The Colts are reeling. They are the fighting Saturdays, if you will, and they're able to welcome in to Indianapolis into the Dome. They're able to welcome in the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, on the face, this game is a 4-point game, so the Chargers are a 4-point favorite on the road, where Indianapolis Colts, and by default, are a 4-point home underdog. Now, when you look at this game, you would think, I personally thought that the Chargers were going to be favored by at least a touchdown. The reason why I say this is because when you look at the Chargers versus Colts, you say, oh, well, they're pretty good defenses, right? Pretty good defenses playing each other. Derwin James, I think he's hurt. But the Chargers have a good defense. And then you thought the Colts have a pretty good defense. But the Colts are playing without Jonathan Taylor on offense. Jonathan Taylor is hurt for the year. And he has this, and the Colts now are starting Nick Foles as their quarterback. They've moved on from Matt Ryan just for these last couple games. They decided to go with their emergency backup in Nick Foles. Super Bowl winning Nick Foles from the Eagles back in the day, Philly special. Shout out, because anytime you can beat the Patriots, you're good in my book. Just like Eli Manning. Shout out to Eli Manning, yo. Eli Manning. If I ever see Eli Manning, I'm buying that man 2 drinks because he beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. So anytime anybody slanders Eli Manning, there'll be no Eli Manning slander on my show, on the Leo B. the Lion show. He should be a first ballot Hall of Famer just for those 2 Super Bowls and for being able to beat the vaunted Patriots, especially the year that the Patriots were 18-0. To beat such a team like that, you have to do everything right, and there's little room for error. Shout out to Eli Manning being able to beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl, and shout out to Nick Foles to beat the Patriots once in the Super Bowl. Without you guys, Tom Brady would have 10 Super Bowls. I shudder to think. So it's the Chargers versus the Colts tonight. I really think the Colts are going to be able to cover this game. Give me the Chargers. I really think the Chargers are going to be able to cover this game. Give me the Chargers 30-20 in Monday night in Indianapolis. The Chargers have a lot to play for, where they know if they win this game, they clinch a playoff spot. So this is a key moment for the Chargers. And as it seems, the Chargers do seem like they play up to their potential when the stakes are highest. They had a clutch game against when their defense was downtrodden by injuries. They had a clutch game against the Dolphins a couple weeks ago and were able to take care of business and have their greatest defensive showing of the season this year against the Dolphins. So if the Chargers can perform under the lights on Monday Night Football, take care of business against the Colts, they will clinch a playoff spot. And that would be clutch. It would move the Chargers to 9-7, I believe, or 9-6, I believe, and it would help them clinch a playoff spot. Now, the Colts really don't have much to play for, but in the NFL, you're always kind of playing for your job. We'll have to see how Nick Foles does. He might be able to shock some people, but there will be without the services of Jonathan Taylor, and that makes me lean the Chargers' way. The Chargers are getting healthy. They have a lot to play for. The Colts don't really have much to play for, and Jonathan Taylor's out for the season. Nick Foles, the emergency backup, is starting. Give me the Chargers 30-20 with laying the points. Take care of business. Now, after talking about NFL Week 16 news and notes and the Monday Night Football preview, I'm going to get into the college football playoff preview show portion of my show, where we'll be looking at the Fiesta and Peach Bowl, breaking down each bowl as to who has the edge in the college football playoffs, and the top 4 teams in college football vie for the college football playoff national championship for all the marbles, ladies and gentlemen. So the first game that I'm going to mention and break down real quick is the number 2 team in the land, Michigan Wolverines, versus the number 3 team, TCU Horned Frogs, on New Year's Eve at 4 p.m. on ESPN Networks. Blake Corum is injured for the Michigan Wolverines, so that's one thing that hurts Michigan right now. Michigan is kind of known for running the ball and playing their great defense, especially under Coach Harbaugh. Traditionally, that's what they've done, has been able to run the ball. They always do have some decent quarterback play. Cade McNamara is playing fairly well, and Harbaugh is coaching Michigan Wolverines up. They were able to blow out the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Horseshoe a few weeks ago, and which basically solidified Michigan's number 2 status. And then as we look at TCU is one of those teams where they were undefeated their whole season, and then they had to play Kansas State, and there was a head scratcher where they had a letdown against Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. And the quarterback Max Duggan tried everything he could, was gassed during that game, but they fell short against Kansas State Wildcats. But regardless of that, TCU was able to remain at number 3 and stay at number 3 for the college football playoff. And I really think that this game, it's going off right now as a 7.5 point game, where Michigan is a 7.5 point favorite against TCU. And for my money, I think that's too many points to give TCU. So even if you can, buy it up to 8. But I really think that TCU is going to keep this game close. Anytime in college football, or now it's starting to get in football in general, anytime you have a game-changing quarterback and a great coach, so you have Sonny Dykes and Max Duggan as a quarterback-coach combo, I think this is going to give TCU the edge, and you could see TCU leading early. Once the defense makes adjustments for Michigan and their defense makes adjustments, then you'll see Michigan trying to claw its way back in the game. But I do think at the end, Michigan Wolverines and the defense in the Fiesta Bowl is going to be too much for the TCU Horned Frogs and Max Duggan and Sonny Dykes. I think that and believe that Michigan will make enough plays on offense and win the game 34-24 against TCU. It's not going to be one of those Big 12 shootouts, or it's not going to be a Big 10 3 yards cloud of dust or a trudge through the snow 10-3 type games. It's going to be one of those games where it's probably 27-24. Michigan scores a late touchdown and wins the game 34-24, even though I'm saying TCU take the 8. But I really think or believe that it could possibly that happen. If Michigan fails to score that late touchdown, then TCU would probably cover. But I believe that Michigan will win the game and move on to the national championship game. So for the Fiesta Bowl, it is number 2 Michigan Wolverines versus TCU number 3 Horned Frogs at 4 p.m. on New Year's Eve on ESPN networks. Then the second college football playoff matchup that we have is number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes versus number 1 Georgia Bulldogs. Now, Georgia Bulldogs got tried basically a few weeks ago when they got dropped down to number 3 after not losing a game, and they're the defending national champs. The playoff committee basically tried Georgia and moved them to number 3. Then Georgia proceeded to trounce Tennessee and make it look like, damn, you just dropped us to number 3. So Georgia basically is sitting there like, damn, y'all tried us. And we would have been wire to wire number 1 from the beginning of the year until this recently, because Georgia is that good. Georgia, I wholeheartedly believe, is the next, and we've seen it, how they've been competitive under Kirby Smart, where they are the next Alabama, the next dynasty in the making. Yeah, they've won the one national championship, but they're on the collision course and on a full track, fast track to the national championship game again this year. And this year, some would say, may have a little bit less of a competition. So Ohio State coming in with CJ Stroud, a decent defense. Look for Ohio State to try to keep this thing close, but UGA and the Bulldogs are just a juggernaut. OSU, don't sleep on them, though. They are a talented bunch. But when you have Stetson Bennett and you have that defense of Georgia stifling teams, where the only team that was able to really put up points with them was a team that basically caught Georgia on an off day and stay with them, but they still lost to Georgia. Georgia is the juggernaut, the new dynasty, the new Bama, if you will, especially with the way they just reload on defense. Their defense is their calling card, but their defense rides or dies with Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett is a quarterback, but the defensive unit as a whole, wholeheartedly, is 100% faithful in Stetson Bennett as quarterback. So the defense plays with that type of faith and emotion, where they know no matter what we do, we're going to try and play our best, but no matter what we do, our quarterbacks is going to put us in a great position to win. So give me Georgia to beat Ohio State University in the second playoff matchup. And then we will have a collision course with the University of Georgia Bulldogs versus the Michigan Wolverines for the national championship game coming up on January 9th. Now, after talking about and giving you, the listener, a college football playoff preview of Michigan versus TCU and Ohio State versus Georgia, we're going to get into my hashtag 5-pack of picks recap of my 5 picks that I made last week with 2 bowl games and 3 pro games. I started the week at 37 wins, 30 losses, and 2 pushes against the spread. And let's go through the 5 picks and let's see how I did. The first pick that I made was the Boca Raton, roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl game, and that pitted Toledo Rockets versus the Liberty Flames, and Toledo was a 3.5-point favorite. Well, Toledo still won the game, but Liberty covered 21-19. So I ended that game 0-1 on the Boca Raton Bowl game. Then the next bowl game that I picked was Air Force being a 4-point underdog versus Baylor. Air Force was 9-3 coming into the game. Baylor was 6-6. I gave you for the skinny last week. I gave you the skinny that Air Force had more to play for. Baylor has a disappointing season. They're just happy to just be like, whatever free swag we can get, we're happy. And Air Force was actually going to give you their full effort, their gumption, their gusto. They were going to give it to you. And also another reason for Air Force to show up was that it was the Armed Forces Bowl. So the fact that they're one of the Armed Forces, they showed up, and Air Force took care of business, won outright 30-15 against Baylor. So that moved me and my hashtag 5-pack picks to 1-1 on the season. The next game that I picked, 1-1 on this week. The next game that I picked was the Jacksonville Jaguars being a 1-point underdog, taking 1 point against the Jets on Thursday Night Football. And the Jaguars, like I mentioned earlier, were able to cover 19-3 against the Jets and keep the Jaguars' playoff hopes alive. The Jaguars are getting hot at the right time. They're learning how to win, and they're a young team. If you want more NFL analysis, NBA analysis, want to listen to my show, hear some crazy antics, or hear about stuff that's going on with Leo B. the Lion, you'll follow me at Leo B. the Lion Show on Twitter and IG, or on YouTube, subscribe to my channel at Leo B. the Lion. I really appreciate it. Or share my profile with your friends so y'all can get smarter and learn something about these sports. So, now, after going 2-1, let's go to our next game in the 5-pack of picks, and that was the Dolphins to cover their 3 points against the Packers. And we all know from my breakdown that the Dolphins and Tua threw 3 picks to lose the Dolphins the game 26-20, and the Packers were able to take that. That moved me to 2-2 on my 5-pack of picks for the week. And then the last game that I picked for last week was the Bucks -4. They were a 7-point favorite, but I bought it down to -4, thinking, oh yeah, the Bucks will win, but they're not going to win by 7. Well, they didn't win by 4, so the Bucks ended up winning 19-16 in overtime, which is a loss because I bet them -4, and so that brought me to 2-3 on the week. The second straight week that I've gone 2-3, so now this moved my record to 39, 33-2. So 39 wins, 33 losses, and 2 pushes against the spread. Still 6 games over 500, but I really think this week is going to push me. I might have a 4-1, 5-0 week this week coming up. I really do feel strongly about these picks. So let's see if we can get deeper into the money on the hashtag 5-pack of picks for this week. 39, 33-2. Let's go. First pick is Michigan versus TCU. TCU is a 7.5-point underdog, but I'm going to probably buy that to 8 points before the line moves. I think the line's going to move down and probably end up about at 5 or 6. But I'm gonna take 8 points. TCU wins close against Michigan in the hashtag 5-pack of picks. And the reason why TCU can cover against Michigan is, like I've mentioned earlier, the quarterback and QB combo that TCU has in Max Duggan and Sonny Dykes. I really think in the college football realm, if you have a good quarterback and good coach, you are in any game and you are competitive in any game. Michigan's defense and running game will be the edge for Michigan if they can get established the running game and their defense can make adjustments. That's why I think Michigan can still win the game, but I really think TCU has the potential to cover the 8 points. So give me TCU plus 7.5 or plus 8 against Michigan for my first of my 5-pack of picks for this week. The second pick that I have is the other college football playoff semifinal, and that is the Peach Bowl. Give me Georgia minus 7. I might buy it down to 6.5 just because that touchdown, that 7 points, is notorious for being coming into play. But give me the Georgia Bulldogs minus 7. They're the defending champs. They have the strong defense, and they have Stetson Bennett, who's like 35 years old. No, I'm just kidding. He's like 25 years old. He's been playing forever in college football, and he's basically having an extra coach on the field during the game and during the plays to keep the players under wraps and under control. So Georgia laying the 7 points against The Ohio State University for my second college pick of the week in my hashtag 5-pack of picks. Then, for my third pick, give me the Dolphins. I got to be right at some point on the right side with the Dolphins. The Dolphins are 1-point favorites in Gillette Stadium. Give me the Dolphins laying the 1 point in New England. Tua is undefeated against the Patriots in his career, whether it be away or whether it be home. The Pats are reeling. Mac Jones has been having horrible games. And this looks like one of those games that the Dolphins somehow find a way to lose. But that be damned. Give me the Dolphins laying the 1 point against the Patriots in New England. The Dolphins and the better team should win. Let's go Dolphins. Get the job done. And so week 18, you'll be sitting there with a chance on the playoffs on the line. Let's go Dolphins. Come on. Then for my fourth pick, my second NFL game of the week, I'm taking the Jags laying 4 points on the road in Houston against the Texans. The Jags are catching fire, like I've mentioned, alluded to. The Texans are still trash, even though they beat the Titans. They're still 2-12-1 or whatever it is, 2-11-1. So I really believe that the Jags, with a lot to play for and a lot on the line, will come out and show up and play strong against the Texans. Look for the Jags to probably win like 27-10 or something like that. Doug Peterson will get the Jags ready to play, and will get the team ready to fulfill their destiny and try to make the playoffs and try to win the AFC South. The fifth and final game that I'm picking for my hashtag 5-pack of picks for this week is the Giants laying 3 against Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Colts haven't played on Monday night, so we don't know how they're going to look against the Chargers. But Jonathan Taylor's out for the season. The Giants are still trying to jockey for position in the playoffs and make it to the playoffs. So I believe that Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones are going to show out against the Colts. The Colts aren't that good. They're reeling. They're on an interim coach. They're on their third quarterback. Just pencil in the Giants laying 3 versus the Colts. And one more time, my hashtag 5-pack of picks for this week is TCU with the points, with 7.5 points against Michigan. Georgia laying the 7 points against Ohio State University. Dolphins laying the 1 point against the Patriots in New England. Let's go Dolphins. Jags laying the 4 points in Houston. Let's go Jags. And then Giants laying the 3 points in Indianapolis. Let's go Giants. And those are my hashtag 5-pack of picks. I'm 39, 33, and 2 right now. So for the last couple minutes, we got like 2 minutes. I'm just going to give you a quick words of encouragement. That'll probably be about a minute long, so let me get started. And that is family over everything. And then in this holiday season, I don't mean just blood family, because family can be whatever you want it to be. If your best friend has been there through thick and thin, that's family. If somebody that you might have met a month ago is closer to you than your family, that's family. So what I'm saying is family doesn't always have to be blood. And to leave you with a saying before I sign off is that those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So do what you got to do to make yourself happy. Be with those that you consider family, regardless of blood. Even though I love my blood family, I'm so grateful for my family and feel blessed to have them in my life. I'm so grateful for my friends and family, but family over everything. Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. This has been Leo B. the Lion coming to you live from Respectable Street here at subcultureradio.com on Clematis in beautiful West Palm Beach, Florida. Check me out on YouTube at Leo B. the Lion and Twitter and IG at Leo B. the Lion Show. Have a great week, everybody.